Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Salatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. My dear respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. And first of all, let me thank you for organizing this event. So the Center for Knowledge and Guidance, Dehiwala, so they invited me for this event. And thank you very much for that invitation and for your generous introduction. Today, I want to share a few things on this topic of disastrous effects of electronic screen on growing children. So we all know that our life is very much attached to electronic screens, whether it is our mobile phones or laptops or iPad or the televisions, you name it. Now, we are all connected 24/7 to all these electronic gadgets. So now, since the invent of internet, now the connection to the electronic screen is very much intense, and it's 24/7. So for the last nearly 25 years, we see the effects of that connection and how these electronics impact on growing children, not only in children, even in adults. So there are so many articles and research papers and a lot of discussions regarding this area. So in this particular area of the electronic screen causing destruction in children is studied by so many professionals across the globe, and there are some books written on that. So the literature and the research papers in this area there are hundreds and thousands of papers. So based on that, and based on my personal experience in this area, I'm going to share a few things. So today what we are going to do is that I will give you some case histories and some of my experience in this field and some scientific papers and the current status of the science related to this and what we can do for the future. So that's going to be the summarized version of that's what I'm going to talk about. So I hope that my speech will be a bit coherent, because I was supposed to come yesterday afternoon, to arrive from UK. So I came to airport on time, Friday evening, 9:30 flight. So we were already boarded, and then they said that, there's a technical error, so they can't take the flight. There'll be a 1 hour delay. So we waited, then that 1 hour became 1.5 hours, 11 p.m. Friday night. Then they said, now the technical error is fixed, but it's a curfew time in Heathrow. In Heathrow, they can't take off or land between 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. That is because of the noise pollution law. So they said that although we have fixed the technical error, we can't fly. So the flight was cancelled and is delayed. So the next day, 1:30 p.m., they started, that is yesterday. And so I only at 6 a.m. I landed, and from airport home, had a shower and came. So if I am not coherent in my speech, it's not me, it's the jet lag. So I have something to blame. Okay, right. So let's start the topic with, I'm going to give you 3 cases that I saw. I have hundreds of cases I can share with you all, but I'm not going to obviously share all these cases, but I'm going to give a taste of it just to show you the tip of the iceberg, only 3 cases. The one case I saw about 4 years ago, right? In Delman Hospital, I was in Delman Hospital. A mother came with a 3-year-old boy uh, and another 6-month-old baby girl. So this mother came. And that boy, as he came into my consultation room, he was extremely hyperactive. Right? It was so much so, he jumped onto my table and he pulled my stethoscope, and he was extremely hyperactive. So the mother was very upset. I said, no, don't be upset, because I know I'm here because as a pediatrician, I know these children come, I know exactly what's happening, so it's okay. It's okay in this setup. So she said, sorry, doctor, this is what it is. He's an autistic child. That's why I came. Then I asked her, where are you coming from? She said that she was a Sri Lankan, of course. They are from Colombo, a Muslim family. But they live in Switzerland. They said, this is a common case I always tell, because it's a very important case. That's why I tell this case particularly. So they said that this child is 3 years. The child was born in Switzerland. They migrated to Switzerland about 5 years ago. From that time onward, that means now I'm talking about 4 years ago, right? So 5 years mean then it's 9 years ago from now. So they migrated with the husband, wife, and they were working there. And this child was born, this boy was born. And the first 3 years, they were living in a flat. It's, covered, it's within the wall, 4 walls they were living. Obviously, people who work, migrate to West, they know that to survive there, you have to do constantly work. Sometimes some people work, 2 work per day, 2 jobs they do. So it's most of the time they are out. There's no time for the fathers, particularly to interact with children, to play with children, to maintain a close family relationship is a bit difficult unless you are a professional. So what they said was that this child was born, and at 3 years of age, when they came to me, the child was 3 years old. So at 3 years of age, the child, he didn't have a single word to speak, not a single word, not even mama, right? And extremely hyperactive, and no eye contact, no social or emotional attachment, no social clues, nothing. Is a child very hyperactive. And then this child had features of autism. I'm sure that you heard about this, autism. So they have gone to a doctor in Switzerland. They have diagnosed that, okay, this child has autism. Okay, what is next? So, you can't do anything because autism is not curable, according to them. And that was the learning in the past. But of course, it is not curable if, there's a big if in that, if it is due to a genetic autism. The autism, the problem autism can be 2 types. One is, in the past, there was only one type of autism. I as a medical student, about 35 years ago, learned autism is genetically inherited and it is not curable. Yes, that was true. But now, 35 years fast forward, the definition of autism has changed. Right? Autism is not only inherited, the autism can be acquired too. If it is acquired, that can be reversible. If it is inherited, it is not reversible. So this child, right? So then what is the cause for the acquired autism? is three things. One is excessive electronic screen exposure in children less than 3 years old, particularly. Even after that, there will be a problem, but less than 3 years old, even say half an hour, 1 hour electronic screen can cause severe damage. I'll tell you why. Less than 3 years old. That is number one. Number two, lack of vitamin N. What is vitamin N? N for nature. That vitamin, you can't buy it in pharmacy. It's called vitamin N, N for nature. That means children are deprived of nature, green space, interaction to nature. So the children are now growing in four walls, and there's no green space. They don't see greens. Right? They don't interact with nature. They don't play with nature. So lack of that week, I call it vitamin N. There's a book written on that, on vitamin N. I have that book. What damage this lack of, every vitamin has its deficiency, disease. If you are lack of vitamin D, you get rickets, right? Your bones will change, will bend, and there are so many things like that. And if you are, lack of vitamin B, you become anemic, and there are so many things like that. So like that, the lack of vitamin N, this vitamin, of course, as I said, you can't buy it in pharmacy, you find it in the nature. That is why vitamin N for nature, N for nature. So lack of vitamin N, as I said, that there's a book that tells you how can it damage a children's growth and development. So excessive exposure to electronic screen, lack of vitamin N. The third and the most important thing is lack of parental interaction, involvement. With these three things, if you have electronic exposure less than 3 years, no vitamin N, no parental interaction, involvement, that means that child is bound to get autism. That is acquired autism. This acquired autism was not there when we were medical students. So I was not taught about acquired autism. When I learned, I still remember my professor was Professor, what is his name? Harsha, I think. So when he was teaching the autistic child, he got a patient from his clinic. He brought the patient and showed us, this is the child, as autistic child. Because it's so rare. How rare it was? 1 in 100,000. If you see 100,000 children, you'll find one autistic child. So we couldn't find a autistic child. So he brought this child from clinic and showed us and said that this is the autism, this is what it is, these are the symptoms. And so that's it. After that, I never saw an autistic child. But you know what is the incidence now, autism? 1 in 40. That means every classroom will have at least one child. So this child, the one that I'm talking about from Switzerland, so they came at 3 years, Switzerland diagnosed as autism. They thought that, people don't know, even I can tell you this, even pediatricians or even medical professionals don't know yet. They have not acknowledged yet that these things, exposure to electronic screen, lack of vitamin N, lack of parental interaction and intervention, involvement can cause a phenotype called autism. This is not there in the medical textbooks yet. When it comes to the medical textbooks, of course, everybody will know. But it has not reached the medical textbooks yet. It is on the scientific papers, it is there, yes. In journals, medical journals, it is there. And in conferences, it is being discussed. But it is not there as a teaching material in the books, medical textbooks. That is why many doctors and medical students don't know this. But of course, it's a new thing. So unless you are involved constantly in science and in the field, then you are not exposed to that. You don't know. So this child came, and the mother said, "Doctor, my child is this 3-year-old. He was diagnosed as autism in Switzerland, and they sent him to the Switzerland as a school. There's a special education stream in this school. It's not a normal school, it's a special school for autistic child, because autistic children are considered mentally handicapped." Right? So the child was... So see, the danger here is, this is the child who was born normally, now going to school at 3 years of age, reception starting at 3 years, they start at 3 years, going as a mentally handicapped. So why this mentally handicapped? How a child who was born normally became mentally handicapped? Not because of the child was born normally, but they became mentally handicapped because of the electronic screen, lack of vitamin N, and there's no parental involvement interaction. So this child was diagnosed like that, autism, and sent to the autistic stream school. And the mother said that the government paid 35,000 francs in Switzerland per year to support this child's education. That is how in the Western world, that the government will pay for that. Because that's a special school, you need a special teacher, special training, it's very costly. So the child was going to school, and then after a few months, she said that she received a video clip that I have spoken somewhere about this autism. And that video clip landed in her WhatsApp, and where I have said that some children, the autism can be acquired. How they acquired is this way. Then she found that, yes, I have all these three. From the day one, I exposed my child to electronics because that was the easy babysitter. I exposed my child to all these, nursery rhymes and YouTubes and videos and everything, laptop, iPad, everything was exposed. So the first 3 years, the child was heavily exposed on electronics. They were living and although the Switzerland is a beautiful, greener country, but this particular family, because the mother and the father were working, and they were living in a flat. So that particular child didn't get enough vitamin N. And again, the mother and the father were very busy, so they didn't have time to involve in the child's upbringing, and there was no interaction with the child. It's not just being a father and a mother. It's easy to be just a father. You don't need to do anything much, just a father. But it's difficult to be a responsible fatherhood. A father with responsible fatherhood is difficult. It may be easy to be a mother, but being a mother with a sharp motherhood is difficult, right? So we need to apply these values and principles and philosophies of what is meant by responsible fatherhood and sharp motherhood, right? So when the absence of responsible fatherhood and sharp motherhood, the absence of vitamin N, exposure to electronic screen, here you go, you get the product, autistic child. What is this child will be? No speech, no language, no understanding, hyperactive, mentally handicapped. And you go in an autistic stream, and the future is, there's no future for this child. Right? So how many children like this? Hundreds and thousands. I have I alone have seen at least thousands, both here and in the UK. Not only UK, I travel many places in the Middle East and everywhere I have seen. Everywhere. Even today, this morning, I was waiting, at 6 o'clock. I was waiting in the immigration to stamp the passport. There was a Sri Lankan family, I don't know from where they're coming. That's about 4-year-old child. The way the child behaved, I thought that the child is having this autistic spectrum disorder. The child was, within that few minutes, I found that the child was very hyperactive. Right? So you might see this case. And the teachers all say that there are lots of children in the school who find it difficult to focus. They are very hyperactive. I told you that at least 1 in 40 is now autistic child. That means every teacher will see at least 1 or 2 in the class. So this mother, then after listening to that video clip, where I have said that it could be acquired, she came all the way from Switzerland to here and came here and consulted. Then I said that this is what it is. So she said, yes, doctor, I think this is what the reason is, because we made mistake. This is what happened. Then she said that I came by, with a return ticket. I need to go back in 1 week time. I said, if you go back to the same situation, you came with an autistic child and you are going with an autistic child. But this is not going to help you. So you need an intervention. So what is the intervention? Right? You can't have electronics as a babysitter. So, the human should talk to the children. The children should be interacting with human, not with cartoon characters. The children should talk to human faces, to see human faces, not cartoon characters, right? And show them green, because you are part of the nature. So get the nature, interact with you. And as a father, as a mother, where is your responsible fatherhood? That father is not there. Actually, the father didn't come. Father is in Switzerland. So are you having a sharp motherhood in dealing with these children? Then she asked, what is sharp motherhood? Sharp motherhood is a mother. Every mother is good mother. There's no doubt about that. Right? But not every good mother will bring up children with a personality, leadership development, with a global citizen. No, they won't bring up. For you to bring up a child with intellectual stimulation, spiritual stimulation, emotional stimulation, leadership development, personality development, right? A child who can contribute to nation building, a child who can become a leader, to become a global citizen. Just good mother cannot do that. You have to be a sharp mother with sharp motherhood. That includes being a good mother. So what is sharp motherhood? The sharp motherhood has a plan. The mother has a plan, a project plan for the child, right? They interact, involve. I always say this, I see in the Quran, in Al Imran, Surah Al Imran, there is, about Jesus, right? Jesus, Isa alayhi salam's mother, Maryam alayhi salam, Jesus' mother, Mary. So we know that Maryam alayhi salam was a leader for the humanity. She was a sharp mother, right? But to bring up a child like Maryam alayhi salam, just imagine that Maryam alayhi salam was as a very powerful leader, a mother, a lady. So how that Maryam was brought up by her mother, the Quran talks about that. In Surah Al Imran, Allah says, قالت امرأة عمران ربي إني نظرت لك ما في بطني محررا فتقبل مني. Right? So beautiful. The Maryam, when she was in her mother's tummy, it's called Imra'atu Imran. Imran's wife, that means Maryam's mother. Maryam's mother is pregnant with Maryam. The child is not born yet, right? Is pregnant with Maryam. The mother says to Allah, "O my Rabb," قالت امرأة عمران ربي, "O my master, O my Rabb, Inni nazar, indeed, I'm nazartu laka, I have sacrificed this child, I have given this child, or I have decided, I have prepared, I have a project plan. For what? For mafi batani, what is in my tummy. So the child is not born yet, but the mother had already had a project plan, how I'm going to bring this child up. That is the sharp mother. So a mother with a project plan, how I'm going to bring this child up. A child normally born, you want to bring this child as an autistic child, or a child normally born, you bring this child as somebody with an intellectual stimulation, emotional stimulation, spiritual stimulation, a leadership development, personality development, somebody who is beneficial to himself, his family, his community, his country, and a global citizen. So it all depends on the sharp mother, right? So this particular mother said, of course, we were not involved, we were busy with our jobs and this and that, and finally now we have got this child. So she said that she has a return ticket. I said, of course, if you go back and this is what you're going to get. So then she said, what can we do? Well, I told you 3 reasons for this, right? So remove these 3 reasons, the child become a normal child. Okay, what I had to do? Electronic screen, 3 years constantly exposed. Okay, electronic fast, no electronic screen. 0 minute. When I said 0, that means 0. Completely come out of that electronic screen. Of course, the child is going to be like a drug addict. You know that when the children are, there's again, when a child is completely withdrawn from electronics, the child will behave like a drug addict. You know why? I have seen that. Hundreds of them I have seen that. You know why it happens? Whether you are addicted to heroin or any drugs or any, some people are addicted to pornography, some people are addicted to heroin, there are people addicted to many things. But whatever the addiction, right, whatever the cause of the addiction, the pathway that, affect the brain is the same. It's called dopamine pathway. Right? Irrespective of the causes, what happens in the brain is the same. So similarly, if a child is addicted to, even us, some of us are addicted to electronic screen. Right? We are all constantly on Facebook or WhatsApp or YouTube. Right? We can't switch off. So we have a mental health problem. We have a anger management problem. We have a stress problem. So there are so many problems, even for adult. But the child, it is more, particularly in less than 3 years, it's very damaging because that is the time the children's brain grow for 3-4 years. No brain growth after 4 years. During the growing time, the brain grows. At that time, if the children are exposed to electronic screen, you have a structural damage in the brain. I have seen that. Structural damage. So the dopamine pathway is triggered and becomes addictive, right? So when you withdraw the child from electronic screen, then the child become addicted and it will be very difficult to manage that. But of course we had to give some other alternatives, like some more activities on the nature activities and all that, so that somehow we should get the child completely out of electronics. That is one. Second thing is, let the children play and take them out to nature. Right? Can go to the ocean to see the beach and to the paddy fields and the mountains, activities, exposure to green. So that's sort of interacting with nature. And as I said, the responsible fatherhood and sharp motherhood, fully involved. She said, if I go back to Switzerland, I can't do this. Then she said, okay, I'll stay back. I'll stay back for 6 months and see what happens. I said, that's a good decision, fine. So she stayed back, and I sent that child to a nursery and said that, a lot of interaction needed. So let the child play with other children and let a lot of human face is the most powerful stimulant for children's growth and development. Human face. So the children from day one should expose to human faces. Let the children, let the family members carry the child and talk to the child, looking at the face. They all interact. That's the most powerful brain development strategy, human face interaction. So she said that, okay, I'll stay here. And then she stayed back and connected to a nursery. She went to nursery. The child played with the children and no electronics, a lot of green space, a lot of interaction. But the dad was in Switzerland. Obviously, he has to live there and work for them to survive for the economic reason. But the mother resigned her job and stayed here. At least, although there is no sharp, responsible fatherhood in place, at least now a sharp motherhood is in place. So this child was developing well. After 6 months, I reviewed again. The child was started to have some words, languages developing, hyperactivity is significantly reduced, and he was focusing more, he was smiling, there was some social skills, and all that was developing. And after 6 months, I said, yes, now you can see, this is fine. So do you want to go back to Switzerland? She said, no, doctor, that nursery, I can stay there until he's 5 years old. So I have decided to stay until 5 years old. Fine. So then they stayed in that place until 5 years. That means from 3 to 5 years, 2 years. At the end of the second year, the child at their nursery concert delivered a speech, right, on the title of My Little Toy Car, Red Car. That is the title of the speech. And that child delivered a speech. And after that, they went back to Switzerland. Now, there was another thing. Then after that, I lost contact with them after that. 2 years, I lost contact because they went to Switzerland. And last month I had a clinic in Delman. So they came. They said that they were on a holiday. They found that I am there, so they wanted to see me. And that boy was 100% a normal child, right? Going to normal school. No problem at all. Everything was fine, right? So they just came and said, I just wanted to say thank you. That's why I came. So that's fine. And then there was something else she said. She said, doctor, our school the child's school is still getting 35,000 francs every year because, according to the government in Switzerland, the autism is not curable. He is already branded as autism, so the government is constantly funding. There's no way that they can reverse it, right? So now she asked me, what can I do? I said, well, obviously the problem is this autism is reversible. This fact is not written in a medical textbook yet. But of course, there are a lot of scientific papers, but the people are not ready to read those papers and all that. Anyway, so that is one case. Now, by telling this case history, I'm giving you the practical version of what's happening with this electronic screen.